Hi, this is James with FluentGreekNT.com. Learning to pronounce Greek words is a crucial first step in your study of New Testament Greek. To help you with that, in this video I will pronounce the most common Greek words found in the New Testament letter by letter. But first, a tip for those who are just starting out and don't know the alphabet yet. I encourage you to focus on the lowercase forms, as those are by far the most common, and you can learn the capital letters as needed. To illustrate this point, let's search for capital letters in the first chapter of John. The first letter is actually a capital epsilon. So these are lowercase. This entire line is lowercase. All these are lowercase letters, and so on. Okay, here we see another capital epsilon. Here's a capital iota. Here's a capital eta. Okay, but I think you get the idea. These are almost all lowercase letters. Back to the alphabet page. Most Greek letters have direct equivalents in English, unlike, say, Hebrew, which feels very foreign when you're first starting out. Alpha looks and sounds like A. Beta looks and sounds like B, and so on. When you're practicing, I encourage you to set up two windows next to each other, as shown here. That way, you can quickly go back and forth between the words you are sounding out and the pronunciation guide. If you're using a mobile device, you can print the alphabet and diphthong tables for easy reference. Let's get started. Fluent Greek presents vocabulary words from most common to least common. This word, the article, occurs over 19,000 times in the Greek New Testament and is by far the most common word. For each word we'll be pronouncing, we'll read from left to right. The first mark we see looks like a single quotation mark. Let's find that on our alphabet page. Okay, here it is. We see that's called a rough breathing and sounds like an H. Okay, next we have the vowel omicron, which is pronounced aw. Putting those two sounds together, the masculine form of the article is pronounced ha. The next form, the feminine, begins with a rough breathing, followed by the vowel eta, which is pronounced a. Rough breathing plus eta then is pronounced hey. Lastly, the neuter form begins with a tau, which is pronounced like the English letter T, followed by omicron, which is pronounced aw. The omicron has a mark above it. Let's go find that on our alphabet page. Okay, here it is. We see that's called an acute accent. Accents originally indicated a change in pitch, but now they tell you which syllable to emphasize. For single syllable words, it has no practical effect on the pronunciation. So we pronounce the neuter form ta. Let's repeat the masculine, feminine, and neuter forms. Ha, hey, ta. Okay, going to the next word. This word begins with kappa, which is pronounced like the English letter K. After the kappa, we have two vowels next to each other. These often function as a unit and have a single sound. These are called diphthongs. Here's the diphthong table. Okay, the first entry actually matches our word. This is pronounced I, as in aisle. Again, we have an acute accent with a single syllable word. So let's pronounce this word, kai. And it means and, even, also. Kai. Okay, next we have a new mark, which looks like an apostrophe. Okay, this is called a smooth breathing. This has no sound, so for pronunciation purposes, it can be ignored. We have two vowels next to each other again, so let's look at our diphthong table. Okay, this is the second entry, and is pronounced ow, as in owl. We have tau again, followed by omicron with the acute accent. So this means that the second syllable will be emphasized when we pronounce the word. Lastly, we have sigma. Something to note here is that sigma has two forms. The second form is used when the sigma occurs at the end of a word. The sigma is pronounced just like our English letter S. So combining all these sounds together, we have ow, toss. If we were emphasizing the first syllable, it would be autos. But since the second syllable is emphasized, it's autos. Now let's go to the feminine form. Again, we have a smooth breathing, followed by ow, a tau, and an eta with the acute accent. The feminine form then is pronounced aute. Lastly, the neuter form begins the same way with an omicron at the end. Auta. Autos, aute, auta. Next, we have a new letter. This is delta, which is pronounced like the English letter D, and an epsilon, which is pronounced e, as in pet. This is then pronounced de. Okay, this word begins with a smooth breathing, an epsilon, and then ends with a nu, which is pronounced like the English letter N. Putting these together, we then have N. This word begins with a smooth breathing, followed by two vowels. Let's check our diphthong table for this combination. Okay, we see it's the third entry, and is pronounced A as in ace. Then we have mu, which is pronounced like the English letter M. And finally, a iota with an acute accent that is pronounced E. Putting these together, we have a me. Not Amy, because of the acute accent, it's a me. This word begins with a lambda that is pronounced like the English letter L, followed by an epsilon with an acute that is pronounced e, so le. Then we have gamma, which is pronounced like the English letter G, and finally an omega, which is pronounced O as in phone. Combining all these sounds, then we have Lego. Not Lego, because the acute accent is on the first syllable. It's Lego. This word starts with a rough breathing, followed by an upsilon, which is pronounced u. So we have hu, followed by a mu, the diphthong we had in our last word that is pronounced a, followed by a new form. Let's look at our accent table for this. So this is called a circumflex. Again, accents don't indicate a change in pitch, simply which syllable is to be emphasized. So this has no pronunciation difference from an acute accent. Finally, we have a sigma. Combining these sounds, then we have humace. Smooth breathing. Epsilon iota combination, which again is pronounced A, followed by sigma. Ace, preposition meaning into. Smooth breathing, epsilon, so we begin E with gamma. And finally, an omega with an acute accent. This word is then pronounced a go and means I. Smooth breathing plus diphthong that is pronounced oo, as in hoot. The smooth breathing has no pronunciation value, so this word is pronounced oo and means no. Next we have rough breathing, omicron, acute accent, plus sigma. hoss. The feminine form begins with a rough breathing, an ada, which, to remind you, is pronounced a, and the acute accent. The first word we pronounced was the article, and its feminine form looks just like this, except it has no acute accent. So you need to pay attention to the accent marks as they might change what the word is. This is the relative pronoun. Without the acute accent, though, this would be the feminine form of the article. Next, we have ha. If you remember again the article, without the acute accent, this would be the masculine form of the article. But with it, it's the neuter of the relative pronoun, meaning who. This begins rough breathing, the diphthong again, which is pronounced oo, who with a tau, omicron, sigma, hutas. The feminine form begins with a rough breathing, a diphthong, ow, a tau, and finally an ada, haute, haute. The neuter form, tau, diphthong pronounced oo, tau, omicron, tuta. So doing masculine, feminine, neuter again, we have hutas, haute, tuta. Here's a new letter we haven't covered yet, so let's find that on our chart. This is the theta, which is pronounced like the combination th in English, th. We have an epsilon, which is pronounced omicron, and sigma, theos. Not theos, because this is on the acute accent is on the second syllable, theos. We haven't seen this layout before. This is called the lexical form. This is used for nouns, and this gives us enough information to know how words will vary with different grammatical endings. So we have the nominative form, the genitive ending, plus the article. This tells us it's a masculine word. In the nominative, we have omicron sigma. In the genitive, we have omicron upsilon. Theos, theou, ha, God. Rough breathing, omicron, tau, yoda. Hati, that. The next word begins with the letter we haven't covered yet. Here it is on the alphabet page. P, which is pronounced just like its namesake in English. Alpha with the circumflex, followed by a sigma. Pos. The feminine form begins just the same way. Note the different form of the sigma because it doesn't occur at the end of the word. Pasa. Finally, the neuter, pon. Pas, pasa, pon, meaning all. Sigma upsilon, su. Sigma diphthong, su. Now, these are pronounced almost identically, so you'll have to keep them distinct in your own mind, and this is a very common word, so it'll be easy to do. Soy, se. Su, su, soy, se, meaning you. Gamma, alpha, and then a new letter, rho, which is pronounced R, like R, gar. This means for. Mu, eta, may, meaning not. And lastly, epsilon, kappa, ek, epsilon, xi, which is pronounced like the X in ax, x, ek, x, meaning out of. I hope this was helpful to you. If you'd like to see further content like this, please subscribe to this channel. And lastly, and most importantly, to practice pronunciation yourself, sign up for a free 2-week trial at fluentgreeknt.com.